the meeting, July 27th, 2022, commission meeting, and call to order. So, the meeting is being audio and video recorded, so you're on TV.
Is it live, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I
Thank
believe it is live. From our newly christened John McDonald control room. So the first item on the agenda is to view and act on the acceptance of the minutes of the June 2022 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to peruse the?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments? Is there a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept.
Is there a second?
Second?
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so moved. And then, the next item on the agenda is review and approval of all bills and expenses. What do we have?
Okay, we had a bill from USA Marine for buoys for $2,754.80. Another bill from USA Marine for solar dock post caps, $639.92. And then an invoice from Chase Harris Portable Toilets for $276.40. That's it for the month of July.
That's a monthly fee on the
Yep.
porta potty, right? Perfect, all right. Are there any discussion or comments, questions on the bills? Take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, to approve.
Is there
I
a
second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. And moving on, so we're going to move on to the public participation segment. Do we have anyone on there?
We have two people. Ruby Alfonso,
Bonzo, yeah?
is he here?
I think Mr. Alfonso wants to speak on the water ski discussion, so do you want to push that? Take him off here and
Okay.
have him go on that part of it? There's another speaker for the water ski thing here too, somewhere? Yes? Okay, so we have, all right, so let's move them both.
The other one was David Hartman.
Is David here?
Yep.
Okay, you're up, David.
Stand up.
Yes, please come forward. You can come forward to the desk and just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is David Hartman. I'm a trustee of a small 7-unit condominium at 143 North Quinsigamond. So we've noticed, most of us have lived there for 7 or 8 years, and we've noticed quite a bit of erosion over the years and a lot in the last couple of years on our 150-foot frontage there. And so I think we're looking for input and advice on the best way to remediate that, but I think we observe that without knowing exactly what's causing all the erosion, but we've observed that the deep-hulled boats going by fast, and we're in a narrow part of the lake, create large waves, and that's added measure quite a bit to the erosion on our shoreline. So we're not going to, most of us like boats and things like that, so we're not against boats. It's just what should we do to help our shoreline, and and as taxpayers and owners of a property, we have an interest in what's the best way to deal with this. And we're looking at things like building walls, and just at the very early stages they're expensive. We don't know what we can get permitted and all that kind of thing. So we just want to voice our observation and interest in this topic.
Okay. And typically in the public participation part of it, it's kind of like you can say whatever it is you had concerns about, and there's not a lot of back and forth.
Right.
In this particular sense, I'm just gonna kind of answer your question. Is that two things that, you're not alone with this problem, and as far as building walls or doing any of that sort of work, that's just something to go through conservation.
Right.
Pull a permit, Simple as that. And you can, build a wall. There's a time when we draw down in late October, well, we basically start November 1st, or right around November 1st, and we start drawing down. So the lake goes down about 30 inches, so it'll give you a little bit of shoreline. Certainly, typically it's just hand tools down there at that point, but if you go for an order of conditions with the Conservation Commission in Shrewsbury, you're on the Shrewsbury side, yeah?
Yeah.
And so you'll be able to.
We're broadly aware of that. We're, looking in, just starting at the beginning.
Yeah. And that may or may not, mitigate your issue there, because the water can get underneath it. The second thing is, just as a reminder to everybody that, any boat is responsible for any damage that their wake does to a shore, to a boat, to a dock system, to whatever it is. So it's not, that's a responsibility of the boat owners is to make sure that, just like if they had hit your shore with their boat. So that's a state law, state statute. The challenge with that is, of course,
Catching
them and, taking down their
Doing it,
numbers and going through that whole process. And, I'm not saying it's easy, but that's kind of another avenue you can take. So this is a countrywide issue. Now, it's not just Lake Quinsigamond, it's not just even Massachusetts, it's all
Yeah.
over the place because
I have friends in Quinsigamond Shores further on the other side. I don't know, they thought that one of their docks got ripped off because
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
big wakes or something.
And so that's kind of where we are with it.
Yeah.
I wish I had better news. I wish I had a better path and say, just, here it is. Yes, Mr. Feigo.
If I can, through you, Mr. Chair. What's your address again, sir?
143 North Quinsigamond.
North Quinsigamond.
It's right across from the daycare center, Audubon Drive. We're on the shore side. There's this small 7-unit townhouse condominium in there, south of, just north of Eagle Cove, and south of Eastern Point.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as the chair said, and when it happens with the drawdown, you can use hand tools to repair as well.
Use what?
You can use hand tools to repair the wall.
We don't have a wall.
Okay.
We have just regular shoreline. That's what's eroding.
You might consider though a wall, obviously.
Well, yeah. Talking a fair amount of money.
I mean, something with, something with hand tools you can do yourself if it gets involved, and you can't, in terms of pouring concrete or altering the shoreline significantly, you gotta go in front of the Concom?
Conservation, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And go for, order conditions. So,
Okay, thank you.
thanks. Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to commissioners' reports.
What about the other issues, Mr. Chair?
Which other issues?
The ski,
That's
Issue.
item 8.
another agenda item?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
So we're going to move on to commissioners' reports. I'm going to kind of deflect mine because I got a bunch of stuff with the lake management stuff, so I'll defer to that. Mr. Pica?
A few reflections, Mr. Chair. Fortunately, from the best of my knowledge, I could appeal to the police, but I believe everybody behaved themselves during the annual, relatively speaking, City of Worcester fireworks display, which many boats witnessed between Kings Point and the Route 9 bridge. I saw maybe, 100 boats out there, and it seems like everybody behaved themselves, which is great. I mean, we should applaud ourselves for good behavior. For one thing. Number two, in terms of some other issues, have to say that the lake has been very busy, and there are some people do infringe on the law. Let me just say that, look, when you can hear a quarter-mile away music, it's too loud. It's disturbing the peace, period. And everybody knows what I'm talking about. Number two, there are people that'll tie up the properties that are private properties, and they shouldn't be doing that. On the good side, I got to tell you, over the course of the years, we're talking decades, I definitely see less beer cans or soda cans floating on the lake, which years ago used to be very common. I mean, we got to celebrate our successes. People are more conscientious in terms of littering, on average, from my observation, which is a good thing. The weeds in the Half Moon Cove, Mr. Chair, they're just below the surface. They still seem to be there, and there's a lot of Canada geese and ducks that are feeding on the top of weeds. They defecate, their defecation moves down the lake, and so it's a kind of a no-win situation. They might be eating the weeds, so they're not at the surface of the lake, but then it's passing through their body, and they're probably feeding future weed growth, so that isn't a great thing. The turbidity of the water, from my observation, has gotten a little seasonally turbid. At the end of July and August, the lake will get like that. It'll be hazy in terms of viewing through the water. Maybe Ms. Bergmeister might allude to that a little later. Then, in terms of waterfowl, the eagles are about, and also, I was talking briefly before the meeting, observed an osprey in the lake flying about fishing recently, so that's kind of a nice thing to see. There's a few herons flying around the South Bay area, which is nice to see. And I know we have some other issues coming up, Mr. Chair. I'll leave my comments till then. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sergeant Vitos.
Mr. Chair, bear with me, mine's a little bit lengthier than usual. Just going to address a few things that came up. One thing I would like to bring up is the new no wake zone. We did receive some kickback and resistance from residents on the new lake, on the no wake zone. I received reports that some residents have been berating officers regarding their enforcement. Just to reiterate to everybody, the no wake zone has been voted by the commission, is in fact enforceable. It does make a safer experience for everybody on the lake when unloading and loading their vessels from the Cora's Eating boat ramp. That was the whole design and thought process behind it, is we wanted to make that area easier to load, easier to unload, and safer for everybody. Also, we are not able to do selective enforcement. Whether you're a resident or a visitor of the lake, we expect everyone to adhere to the rules and regulations of the no wake zone and to assure safety for all. We will continue to monitor the no wake zone for any and all violations. Additionally, we had another buoy damaged. Mr. Chair, I think I brought this to your attention. It was one of the newest ones we purchased. Please do not destroy the buoys in the lake. A brand new one was intentionally damaged. This behavior is unacceptable and childish. Just a reminder that malicious destruction of property is a felony in Massachusetts, and you are subject to arrest. So with that out of the way, those are just some of the incidents that we've been dealing with that I want to address publicly. We also did have 2 serious lake incidents within the last month. One resulted, or 2 incidents, which resulted in 2 deaths, unfortunately, and 1 that was critically injured. I would ask that all boaters use extreme caution and care while navigating the waterways. We want the lake to be enjoyable for everybody. We encourage people to come visit Lake Quinsigamond, but we ask that everyone do so in a safe and respectful manner. And this includes playing of music at a reasonable level. We've been getting a lot of complaints about people playing music at an unreasonable level. And if I could also state rule number 4, after 8 p.m. you can't be playing music at an unreasonable level. So I just ask that everyone try to be mindful of that. We've had a lot of congregation at the boat ramps during the summer months. Everyone needs to understand that the boat ramps are for unloading and loading vessels only. It's not to congregate, have parties, drink alcohol beverages, grill. It's not for that purpose. It's specifically for getting your boat in and out of the water. On a positive note, July 4th weekend, we had a successful and safe weekend. I just want to thank Mass State Police, Environmental Police, Worcester Police for their assistance in what was a collaborative effort to patrol the ramps, shorelines, and waterways. Due to this effort, I believe we prevented a lot of potential incidents that have typically occurred during that holiday weekend. Just to quickly go over some of our activity. In 2020, at this time, we had 294 lake incidents. And that was during the COVID year, so it was a little bit slower. In 2021, we had 543 to date. And then so far in 2022, we've had 504 lake incidents. up until this point. So we're on pace to match what we had for lake incidents last year. So that's encompassing all lake and ramp traffic. Just to go over some of the ramp activity that we've had, this is purely ramp, not the actual waterway itself. Year to date, we've had 8 verbal warnings, 19 written citations, 6 criminal citations, 30 unregistered trailers, 27 unregistered boat and jet skis, 21 criminal attaching plates, 23 bylaw citations, 14 vehicles towed, and then 20 non-boat related incidents, 11 field safety inspections, 52 denied vessel entries into the lake, 6 liquor law violations, and 5 open container on the ramp violations. So we've been pretty busy. This is our busiest time of year, and we've been working with Mass State Police, Environmental Police, and Worcester Police in a task force this last couple of years, and we believe it's been pretty successful. But we also need the help of the public to monitor yourself, police yourself, and report any and all incidents that occur on the lake so we can be made aware of it. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. When you said all incidents on the lake, that's from all the law enforcement agencies?
That's just us.
That's just Shrewsbury?
That's just Shrewsbury Police.
So that's not including Worcester or the environmental
Yes,
police?
so any lake incident, we just document, just so we have an idea of the activity.
Okay,
And that could be anything that has to do with the lake
okay,
at all. So, in 2021, we had 860 lake incidents, and we're already at 504 for the year. And we have a few months, well, we have a little bit of ways to go. August tends to be busy because it's pretty hot.
right. Okay, thanks. And again, thanks for all the work you guys do out there.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Do we publicize that information, maybe through the Lake Association or in any kind of a public way? So that the public
I suppose we
sees?
can do that. We just kind of did it because we're on TV.
We did it
but-
here,
Yep.
but I mean,
Yep.
it would be good for the people who are perpetrating.
Yeah, I agree with you because I'm pretty confident that most of those people are not watching right now.
And I don't think
And
they're
they're probably
in the
not in the
audience
room.
either.
Yeah. So there's that. So, yeah, that's a good idea, actually. We'll see if we can work something out.
Yeah, we can
All right,
talk offline and figure it out.
yeah, kind of like what you guys do in the community advocate, except we'll put it on the webpage or release it to the watershed and they'll publish it for us. Okay, good idea. Any other questions or comments?
No.
All right, thank you.
So, you want my report now?
I do.
Okay, so the Worcester Conservation Commission has just gone through an exercise where we've gone through a list of about 20 enforcement orders that we have in the city, some of which are actually relevant to Lake Quinsigamond. There are 2 that are specific to the docks on the north end of the city, and while there's not been much progress, our current conservation agent is on vacation at least for another week, but he's going to be picking that up, and we're going to be talking with the legal department about that soon.
Okay.
And I'm hoping to have an answer on what's going on with that by the end of, by our next meeting. And I just wanted to give a quick update on the enforcement orders for the properties up at the top of Belmont Hill. We've been scrutinizing each of the enforcement orders, and we've seen some incidences after heavy rainstorms, though we're seeing that they're really beginning to take it very seriously, and they've done a lot of work to try to improve it, and hopefully they've minimized the siltation that comes from their properties, and we'll see less of that as time goes on.
Okay, great. That's good news. And I have not witnessed any blooms in the last few storms, so it seems like it's going off. One of the members of the Watershed Association goes up there, when it's raining and sees what's going on. So you know, they're not doing everything right maybe, but they're making way better progress than they did, keeping the storm drains clean, and I forget what they call those bags that are around it, but, you know, so it seems to be getting better. The projects up there are also maturing to the point where I don't think there's as
The
much
stockpiles are
material
going away.
is hanging around up there, which was really the issue, that they couldn't contain it.
It was sort of stalled for a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you go by there, you can see that, you know, it's made way more progress than it was there. So that's all good news. And how that affects the system. I mean, the underlying issue here, and I don't have a solution how to fix this, is that, you know, it's the storm drains are the storm drains there. So anything that comes off those roads go in there and they end up in the lake. So that's just the way it's designed, and, you know, it's the lowest point, and so unless they can mitigate that somehow, I don't, you know, this is likely to occur again when the next project comes along. So we just have to keep an eye on it. But thank you for that report. To piggyback on that for a second too, I also attended the city council meeting a week ago Tuesday regarding the sewer spill in February, and they had their preliminary report, which really didn't say a whole bunch, and maybe Jacqueline can fill us in a little bit more than that. But it was basically that they are taking some steps, and they're looking to develop a plan to, you know, I think everybody understands that the way it's set up right now, it's going to happen again. You know, it's going to continue to happen from time to time whenever, you know, we have a big rain, or a pipe burst someplace, or, you know, God forbid the station fails again for something that we didn't foresee. And that was a little, you know, the Worcester Sewer, you know, they were kind of on the hot seat with the city council, because they're like, you know, how does this keep happening? You know, and Councilor Russell, in fact, said, you know, who was on the Lakewood, the Lakewood Quinsigamond Watershed Association, whatever, 30 years ago, and he said we were having this problem back then, and we're still having it. So, but they are, you know, and they have put, you know, Worcester has invested millions, tens of millions of dollars into this project, so into the sewer system, into the pump station, and I'm hoping that they continue to do that. They got backup pumps down there now that are still outside and running, and they're putting more alarms in, and they're trying to figure out how to, you know, how to patch all the holes in the fence. So hopefully they won't, the sewerage won't find a new one. Great. Mr. Nelson?
Yes, a couple of comments. Most of them are concerned about wakes. The expansion of the buoys beyond the Corazini boat ramp out far enough that they actually cause boats to slow down has greatly improved the launching and returning of boats at the Quinsigamond Rowing Club, and they have told me that they greatly appreciate it. They say a good 3/4 of the boats and jet skis now slow down, and it's probably reduced damage to their boats. There was also a request from the Coxons. They're very much in favor of this, but they just wanted to remind us that, you know, July and June, it's light at 5 o'clock when they get out there on the water. But come late September, it starts to get dark, and they have to put lights on their boats, and they're rowing in the dark in September and October. And they were wondering if we could ask that at least one of the buoys on the north and one on the south had a light on it, so the coxswains would know when they were coming across the buoys up the lake during a heavy practice when it was dark in the morning. And so I said I would mention that and ask if that could be done. I also want to mention that the Worcester Boat Club and the Quinsigamond Rowing Association are having a masters race, regatta really, from 8 to 11 this Sunday, the 31st. It's a 1,000-meter race from basically the gazebo down to Regatta Point. They've got a large number of participants. I notice a couple of the sponsors are here, so if there are any questions about it, they might be able to answer them better than me if there are any new changes. It'll basically be over by lunchtime on that Sunday, and it's the first Masters race that's been held on the lake in about 10 years. and they've had a huge, massive response with local people interested, a few from the northern edges of Rhode Island, Connecticut, most from central Massachusetts. And so they actually had to cut registration off. And so it looks that it might be something that they might continue if they get such a good response. And I guess, finally, a personal comment about wakes. Very early this morning, I was going through the Narrows in a scull that's only 4 inches above the water on either side. And suddenly I had a inboard motorboat towing a skier come within 30 or 40 feet of me in the opposite direction, creating 18-inch high wakes. And I should have gotten the number of the boat, but I was too busy trying to keep myself from tipping over. And there used to be no wake signs right at the Narrows, because it is very narrow, and people coming from different directions really need to slow down, particularly if there's a paddle board or a kayak, a canoe, or single rower going through. So, yeah, there are still wake problems, even though I will admit, launching and returning on the dock myself up at the Quinsigamond Rowing Center, I will admit, I've seen the majority of jet skiers, there are fewer in the morning, and the motorboats actually slow down compared to before those buoys were put in place. So I personally can say that they do seem to be making a big improvement. Those are my comments.
Okay, great, thank you. Just a couple of comments on, to flesh a couple of those things out. The buoys at the ramp were basically designed, and I know Donahue falls within that area that we put the buoys out, but the buoys were really put there for the boat ramp, not the rowing club. So I'm glad that it's a positive impact on that, and that people are a little bit safer. But the real reason we did that was to protect the people coming in and out of the boat ramp. So that's that. The light situation, there was a light on the buoy there. If Sergeant Vitos can correct me if I'm wrong, that was the buoy that got destroyed.
I believe it was, because I saw a light
with the
on it.
light basically gone. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to the buoy. No one saw the attack, I guess, but it was pretty chewed up, and the light was totally missing off the top of it. So, that again, these are safety. These are out there for people's safety, and vandalizing them and destroying them is a dangerous thing to do in the face of it, and plus it's a felony. So it would probably be wise not to do that. Kings Point was voted officially on the lake as a no-wake zone. The Narrows at Kings Point. So I want to remind everyone in the morning that's skiing there that is in fact the case. What Mr. Nelson experienced there, I'm glad that he got out of it safe. There has been a fatality with a water ski hitting a single cruise shell at that location. So it has happened, and it can happen. And the real issue there's no, it's 187 feet across. So there's no way to legally water ski through there, because John Salem's house is a swim area. So you have to be 150 feet from a swim area to make a wake. So that's one thing. It's an obstructed view. That's another thing, which is a state law. So there's a whole bunch of reasons that we want a no wake zone in that part of the lake. So I would ask everyone to please obey that rule. So that's it for reports. I'm going to move on to review and act on dock permits. What do we have? Anything?
Nothing.
Okay, so that's an easy one. And then a discussion and possible act on the water ski course on Flint Pond. So there is some concern from some abutters on Flint Pond. Is there a representative here for that? Would you like to come up and speak, please? I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, name and address. Thank you for coming.
Yes, my name is Donna Moylan. I'm at 63 Point Rock Drive on Flint Pond. I'd first like to thank the Commission for putting this agenda on, this item on your agenda tonight. because it's something we've been talking about. I am here to present some of the questions and concerns that have emerged in our discussions among several of the Flint Pond residents, particularly over the past couple of years, related to the water skiing course on Flint Pond. While I will only be addressing the primary concerns which are currently and adversely affecting our quality of life on the pond, I would first like to note that there are several other questions and concerns that I will not be addressing tonight. For example, when we have met, and we have met on several occasions, some people are questioning why this course is even on Flint Pond. Is it legal to be on the pond? Who is responsible for the course? And is it legal for water skiing businesses to be using the course? I'm not going to be addressing those, but those are concerns that might come down the road. As a brief background, there was an attempt to get these questions and concerns answered earlier this year via a phone call to the chair of this commission, Mr. Peter Collins, and we were told to request a hearing with the commission if our concerns were not addressed, which is why I'm here. Mr. Collins did share some information about the history of the water skiing course, and it appears that he was involved in having the course placed on Flint Pond back in the late 80s. Seems to be a precedent for establishing some limits on the use of the course, at least initially on the weekends. So we can only assume that a lot has changed on Flint Pond since the 80s and 90s, including many more residents living around the pond and many, many more boats and jet skis using the pond. But please note that as residents of Flint Pond, many of us are boat owners, and we respect the right of all who want to use both Flint Pond and Lake Quinsigamond in a manner that is respectful towards others and in a manner that is safe and legal. We also know, as has been alluded to here tonight, that there are many people on both Lake Quinsigamond and Flint Pond that are very annoyed, frustrated, and concerned about the noise levels and safety issues, particularly related to the jet skis. We have definitely seen an uptick on Flint Pond as well related to the jet skis, and honestly, it seems some of them are being drawn to the water skiing course as if it's like an activity in a park. But there's another noise and safety issue that we have not seen addressed by anyone, and this has to do with the water skiing course on Flint Pond. As we shared with Mr. Collins again several months ago, many of us who live very close to the water are annoyed, frustrated by the lack of respect by some, but not all, who use the water skiing course, particularly those individuals who use the course very early in the morning, typically before 7 o'clock a.m. and on a consistent daily basis. So from March, April to October, November, for 7 or 8 months, from Monday through Friday, and again on Saturday and Sunday, we are awakened by engine noise of the boat, as well as verbal conversations and instructions that we can clearly hear between the driver and the skier in the water. We are not able to leave our bedroom windows open at night when we sleep, and even with the windows shut, the noises are loud enough to wake us up. So we actually started documenting this activity this summer after we talked to Mr. Collins. And what we are noticing is this course is consistently being used at certain intervals in the morning, typically around 6:50 in the morning, and then every 30 minutes. And generally with the same boat, and we do have pictures, because one of us has been taking pictures, and possibly different skiers. We are also noticing many, many times, including this morning, there is not a spotter on the boat, which we know is illegal and presents safety issues. This also suggests to us, many of us, that someone is possibly running a water skiing business and using the course on Flint Pond for this purpose. But we rarely have any law enforcement personnel on the pond to address such unsafe and illegal activities due to the shallowness of Flint Pond and the difficulties in terms of getting boats there. The major point for us, again, as residents of Flint Pond is that there's a person or persons using the water skiing course pretty much on a daily basis for 8 to 9 months, very early morning hours, and we find it not only annoying and frustrating, but very disrespectful to several of us who live on the pond, as it adversely affects our ability to sleep without such unnecessary noises, and thus affects our quality of life on the pond. Think about how annoying and frustrating it would be to be awakened every single day for 8 to 9 months. Very early in the morning, not only for people who are retired and don't have to get up for work, but even those of us who work every single day before 7 o'clock. And then we have to deal with it again on the weekends, or if we're on vacation, we have to deal with it. I'm going to add on a personal note that although I have not lived on a public lake for most of my adult life, I have lived in public neighborhoods near public parks for over 30 years. And as an example, although there is no law about mowing your lawn early in the morning, I will tell you that in my experience, not one person ever mowed their lawn before 10 o'clock in the morning, simply out of respect for neighbors. Not one in my experience. I'm going to also add on a personal note related to Flint Pond. When I had my boat delivered for the summer months in April, it was coming very early in the morning, and I was very concerned about that because I didn't want to wake up the people near the ramp. So I drove my boat very slowly to our dock, made sure I didn't rev my engine so as not to wake up anybody. Simple respect for neighbors who live along the shores. So in conclusion, since there is a precedent for setting limits on the use of this course, we would like to engage this commission in a discussion related to setting time limits on the use of the water skiing course, particularly in the early morning hours, both during the week and on the weekends. Also, given the potential illegal and unsafe activities occurring in the use of this water skiing course, there may also be a need to engage in a larger discussion with this commission about such issues at a later time, including possibly moving the course to a different area or a larger body of water, so not only to minimize the noise disturbances, but to maximize the ability of law enforcement personnel to observe and regulate the potential illegal and unsafe activities while the course is being used. Thank you to your attention to our requests.
All right. Thank you, Don. So we're going to have one more speaker come up, and just so everyone understands kind of how we're going to do this part of it. This is basically a discussion mostly amongst the commissioners that are present today to find out, I guess, to see if how the commission wants to move forward with the issue. So see if it warrants moving into a hearing, or the commission could decide to take no action, or something in between. So we can look at a bunch of different things. From a historical standpoint, she was accurate that at the time we put the course in, I was involved in the getting approval for the course with the Lake Quinsigamond Commission at that time, which I believe was in '89. I think when we first went for the first round of it. And essentially, this was not without significant public input while we did this, including people from Point Rock, all the rest of the neighbors. And there was kind of a mixed bag of folks who thought it was cool and it was a good idea, and people who didn't want to do it. So at that point, which she was referring to as a precedent for a limited access or limited use of the course, we began permission with just permission for the use of the course on weekends. So we had to put the course in on a Friday night, and we took the course out on Sunday night, and that's basically what we did for I think 2 or 3 seasons. There was the course has been in since that point. We went back to the commission because there had been no incidents, there had been no complaints. And in fact, some people from Point Rock came to us and said, this hadn't turned out to be half the problem we thought it was going to be. And we actually kind of like watching them. So again, more significant public input at that point. And then the commission granted us permission to put the course in, for the entire season without having to go in there and take it in and take it out. And so that's where it's been sitting in for, I guess, the better part of over 30 years now, I guess. And without incident, as far as I know, without accidents, arrests, or anything, and I'm not even sure how many tickets are. It does concern me. I will say this is the thing that was highlighted on my sheet of all the things you said, that there was boats out there with no spotter. That is illegal. It's bad for you as water skiers. It's bad for your community as water skiers to be, associated with that. There's really no excuse for it. You can find a spotter. There's usually people around or whatever. So if any resident sees a skier anywhere on this lake without a spotter, take down the boat numbers. If you can get a picture of it, that's even better. And, let law enforcement know, but also please send that image to the Lake Quinsigamond Commission, because we will deal with it. And I know every single ski boat in this lake, so, I'll go talk to them personally. But that's a hard and fast rule. You need to have a spotter every time you ski, not just on the course, anywhere on the course. So, so that's disappointing. The other part of that is I'm not aware of any business on the water ski business on the lake. I think what you're hearing is that there's a lot of coaching going on, and someone else can kind of go through what happens out there on the slalom course. But the only time there was actual formal lessons was part of the agreement when we got the course. Part of the public input was that we agreed as a club to teach water skiing in a Parks and Rec program in Shrewsbury. So that's where that came from. So we did, in fact, teach water skiing on a formal basis. We had lessons, but that was through Parks and Rec. I had to become a part-time employee, summer employee of Parks and Rec. I even had a Parks and Rec T-shirt, which I couldn't find, and I'm sure it doesn't fit anymore. And so we did that for a few seasons, and basically until they didn't have any sign-ups. I think that's what kind of Angela wants to take credit for squashing it when she came on board, but it wasn't her. And but it was fun while we did it, and we taught a fair amount of people how to water ski, and that still goes on. So I'll let someone else deal with that. So the next person, is there a representative from the ski side of things over here? Mr. Afonso, please come up and name and address.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rui Afonso, 50 Old Faith Road in Shrewsbury. So I prepared these brief remarks without the benefit of knowing what the concerns that were just presented. So, of course, my remarks are not in response, directly or otherwise, to the concerns that we just heard. So I briefly wanted to focus on what I think are three relevant perspectives to consider as we discuss the pros and cons of water ski course on Flint Pond. I will mention briefly a little bit about the sport of water skiing so that there's an understanding of what that is, some background on the slalom course itself, and some perspective on the larger value that the course and people that have become proficient as a result of it bring to the larger community at large. If I may, just as a little background as to why I am the person speaking for the community, interestingly, the reason I'm here tonight goes all the way back to Point Rock. I lived at Point Rock from 1989 to 1996. I owned my unit there for another 5-6 years after that. Many good friends, many good relationships were made there. But the interesting part is that I actually learned how to water ski as a result of several skiers that lived at Point Rock at the time. They were nice enough to get me involved, to teach me. My interest in the sport grew very fast, from recreational to competitive skiing. And I guess in a way, maybe a good way or a bad way, depending on perspective, we can blame the slalom course at Point Rock for my being here tonight. Lastly, I should also say that for the last many years, I don't know how many, but for the last several years, I have been essentially sort of in charge of maintaining and managing the course at Flint Pond. A little bit on water skiing itself. So it's like any other sport, like most sports, it can be performed as a recreational activity or a competitive one. The recreational level is what we see every day, mostly on public lakes, on rivers, certainly a lot of it here on Lake Quinsigamond. On the other side, on the competitive level, you need some infrastructure. In the course of skiing, it's the course. It's a slalom course that provides the infrastructure for one to go from recreational skiing to a more competitive level. It's really not that different than having the gates on for downhill skiing, right? You know, one can leisurely come downhill skiing, or one can be more aggressive, more competitive, and go through a course. So basically, the Flint Pond course allows skiers to develop, to train, to become more proficient in the sport. The chairman spoke a little bit about the background, so I'm going to dispense with some of the remarks that I would make on that, because he's explained it better than I can. I will say that over the 30 years that we're talking about, many skiers of all ages, I represent sort of the older age in that example, but skiers of all ages have learned to ski and to become more proficient using the course at Flint Pond. Some have become very proficient, have gone on to compete, some even at national levels. Others have acquired their skills and experience and use it in different ways. 16-year-old Barb Forgs is having a fun summer in Vermont as a camp counselor and head water ski coach. Her dad is here. He can tell you all about it later. She's, of course, is an alumnus of the slalom course at Flint Pond. I could give you more examples, but this is going to be brief. I want to talk about something on the other side of the coin. So I just said basically sort of what the course has done for people. Let me tell you briefly what the course does not do. The course does not prevent, preclude any other activity on the water at any time. Let me repeat that. The course, the buoys that are floating there, do not preclude or prevent any other activity, talking boating, fishing, kayaking, sailing, all of the things, all of the sports, all of the activities that happen on the water. And I'll make one last point. I think it's been mentioned here before, and this is probably relevant. Importantly and thankfully, to my best recollection, there have been no major incidents or law enforcement issues over the 30 years at Flint Pond. We just hear sort of a different story on the general lake that happens. I'm sure we all wish we could say the same thing for the whole lake, but that is a fact. And the last point I was going to do, or to speak about briefly, is does the course, do people that have become more proficient with skiing, more experienced, bring value to the larger community? And I think it's not very different than, coaching youth sports, having that sort of know-how to impart to other groups. So yeah, we develop skiers, we coach skiers, we support local competitions as drivers, judges, participants. If I may, on coming Saturday, the Massachusetts States Championship will be at the South Charlton Reservoir. It's going to be probably 30, 40 skiers, from children to adults. Many of us will be there, helping out with, again, driving, judging, making it happen. I'm not the most qualified person to speak about this. There are others here. But probably the most heartwarming and maybe appreciated contribution that experienced, proficient skiers make is as a key resource to the adaptive ski community. Again, I will let others speak more detailed about that, but let me leave you with this. As you know, as the commission knows, Lake Quinsigamond has sponsored 2 events over the last 2 years, and on Lake Quinsigamond. And what I'll leave you with is that many of the skiers that you see at Flint Pond can be seen helping out, providing resources as qualified drivers, ski helpers, ensuring safety, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you for your time. Let me just finish with a summary like this. The Flint Pond course supports the development of water skiers with no public funding. One way to think about it, it's the equivalent of your town soccer fields or the town tennis court for water skiers, without any tax money. If I have a few more seconds, with your permission, I would just ad-lib a little bit based on what I've heard in the last half hour. From Commissioner, I think you made a very interesting point that gets made all the time, and that is that slalom course and bad behavior don't necessarily correlate. Your 2 examples were out free skiing on the main lake. It's nothing to do with the slalom course. I'm hard-pressed to see that relationship. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you, Rui. Okay, questions, comments from the board? Anything from law enforcement? Have you folks?
We have not received any direct complaints about the water skiing course at all. But then again, we also cannot get there
Right.
on the water. So.
With the Shrewsbury boat.
Correct.
Right. There was a boat, that came to Worcester. Sergeant Garman's not here, but I don't know what happened to it.
It's on Indian Lake.
On Indian Lake. So that boat could get to Flint Pond. I guess that's a discussion we can all sit down and talk about at some point, maybe offline about, I know that probably Shrewsbury's boat's maybe up for renewal pretty soon. I know that, and I also know that the modern standards kind of for a boat like that, calls for having the canopies and all that stuff on it. So I don't think the main patrol boat's ever gonna be rigged to get underneath that Stringer Dam.
Yeah, we would have to.
It'd have to be
coordinate an
something else.
alternate
Yeah.
option. I don't think it would be feasible.
I mean, it's not just the water ski course, it's other things over there too that we have to deal with, but other than that, there's no real, they haven't got, do you,
We have not
we get
received
calls
any
for it, or-
direct calls or complaints
Okay.
that I'm aware of. I mean,
Right. Okay,
that can, any of that can recollect at this time.
all right, anyone else have a,
I guess one comment following up on what was said. The rowing community clearly doesn't get on Flint Pond because with the bit, no matter what size shell you have, the oars stick out too far to get on the Flint Pond from
Yeah.
the main lake. So the rowing community has very little interaction with what goes on in Flint Pond. But I have one question for the previous speaker. The boat that almost capsized me this morning had no observer on it, just a driver. And the best of my recollection, every similar instance that happened last summer, none of those boats had an observer on them. So my question to you is, in all your courses and teaching and what goes on in the slalom course, do you always have an observer on the boat?
I personally always.
Or
Yes.
the things you run, do you ensure that there's an observer on the boat?
I don't run anything. I am a user of the course, and I happen to, be sort of in charge of keeping it in place and maintaining it, and that's enough of a job. But yes, now if you ask me that whether over the last 30 years, have I ever skied on Quinsigamond without a spotter, the answer is yes. Do I now? No. But the point that you're making and that I try to react to is that those buoys floating on the water don't make someone more or less responsible. Your observations had nothing to do with buoys, were people that chose to ski, drive without a spotter. There's
no
quid pro quo.
It's
Okay,
illegal.
yeah, exactly. This one thing, though, moving forward, if we have a discussion like this, please route all comments through the chair. So, and both on the commissioner's side as well. So, yeah, skiing without a spotter is blatantly illegal and unsafe. And if the question is, do at a tournament or at an event, no way would they do that. They have safety people. They have safety. Not only do they have spotters in the boat, they also have in a boat in a slalom tournament. There'd be a timer and a judge in there to make sure that the people got around the ball, and that they went through the right time. The timer's kind of antiquated now because they have all the tech in the boat. But the other part of that is there's also safety boats along the course. So if something falls down there, they're able, and gets injured, they're able to pick them up. So that's they're very safety conscious, and that all comes from the AWSA. So if you want to have a sanctioned tournament from the American Waterski Association, you have to just like rowers. You guys are all governed by the U.S. rowing thing. You have to have this, and now you have to have officials and all this other stuff.
All sorts of safety.
So it's a similar thing to that. So it's very organized and very safe, and they do that because they're taking on the insurance responsibility basically. So that's kind of why they're doing it. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just a few comments. What I see here isn't a situation where the two are in opposition to each other. I don't perceive a threat to the watercourse in the perspective that the residents are bringing forth. I just see it as, it's a time management problem, and it's a respect problem, and it's basically the same thing as what I said last summer. We have a behavior issue on the lake that isn't about the boats. It's not about the wakes. It's about who's behind the vehicle and what are they doing with the vehicle. If we did it on the roads, the police would be all over them. If people engaged in the kind of behavior that they engage in, noise-wise, party-wise, the police would be all over them in most of the neighborhoods of Worcester. So what I see is a situation where we're trying to systematize the boat aspect of a behavior management problem. And I don't know how you get around that. I don't know how you solve that, but it's a matter of who's on the lake, who's using it when, why do they not respect other people, and how do we curtail that?
Yeah. Agreed. It's basically a behavioral issue. One aspect of it on the Point Rock, I'm directly on the other side of the. Excuse me, Dawn. Yes.
I would like to comment when you're done.
Okay. I live on the other side of the slalom course, so I'm pretty much as close as anybody is to that slalom course, and I wake up every morning. Not just the water skiers. I wake up every morning to kayakers going by and having a conversation in front of my house. I wake up to certainly fishermen almost every morning, and are out there. In the fall, I wake up to duck hunters, shooting shotguns off in the eastern part of Flint Pond. So there's noise out there. I chose to buy property on a state reservation. It's basically what you're dealing with here. So there's going to be, and it's a public, it's public access. So there's noise all the time. I haven't experienced, at least for a number of years, a lot of yelling and screaming in the course in the early morning. So for the most part, it's people talking and just people talking on the lake in the morning. Depending on which way the breeze is blowing, can be. It sounds like they're in your. It sounds like they're in your house. So I understand that. And to your point, I don't know how to answer it because it is, I'm, and I don't know, Sergeant Vitos, what is a noise, what is an acceptable time of day? Mowing your lawn and doing yard work, it has to be after 7, right?
7 a.m. is
Yeah.
typically.
So after 7 a.m., you can mow your lawn.
Yep.
So that's about as loud, you can, you can go out there with your backpack leaf blower and all that stuff at that point, yeah. Run a chainsaw, do all that, okay. So, the other point of that is that, with or without the slalom course, and I know this from experience, that we skied at Flint Pond, before the course was in there. The reason that Flint Pond was chosen to answer that question, and why we did not seek to put the course on the Lake Quinsigamond proper, was that, Lake Quinsigamond, the geography of it, the shape of it is so skinny that there's no place that slalom course would fit safely on the lake. Yes, Flint Pond is a calmer site. It's probably one of the best public lake sites in the state, because we get a lot of, not me so much anymore because I really don't ski that much, but there's a lot of ski time on that lake for a public lake. But the reason it was put there was because it was the safest spot for the slalom course at that stage of the. And we considered other sites. We looked at the other side of Flint Pond, which is unnavigable, and we also looked at Round Pond, which is the body of water between the Stringer Dam and the Narrows at Witch Rock Island. So that site was not. It would have actually been preferable I think, for the slalom course, because if anyone did drive through it, they'd drive straight down the course, and it would dissipate the waves. But again, not very navigable, and there was a lot of stumps in the middle of it, and so it wasn't really conducive, thank you, for that kind of activity. So that's kind of why that ended up where it ended up. And so that's that. Mr. Pica? Oh, one second. Don, I'm going to just, let me address Mike. So we're going to, I don't want to get a big back and forth in this part of it, because this may move on to something else, so you can save the comments to if this moves forward. But I just want to have a representative from, one representative from each group to kind of be the spokesperson at this stage, so it doesn't slide. Don, just stand up and just tell. You don't have to come down here if you don't want to.
So, first of all, we are not questioning the value of the course. We are not here to say you gotta remove the course, okay? I have several questions. One is, you kept referencing we, us. I don't know who we, us is who put that course in, and not that you have to answer that now. Noises, you talked about kayaks. Kayaks, fine, we have a woman that uses the lake, it's
Yes.
on a daily basis.
Kayak
no
girl, yep,
engine.
every morning.
They stop right in front of us, okay? So noise travels over the lake. It's daily for months. It is adversely affecting our ability to sleep. It's adversely affecting our quality of life. What I want to pose to Mr. Alfonso, who had a nice speech about the water skiing course, the value of it, we're not contesting that at all. We like watching the guys out there and the women water skiing. But there's no awareness, and there was no recognition, and there was no speaking to the impact on the residents, that how it's impacting the people to come out at 6:50 in the morning every single day. It is daily noise. It is revving engines. You're a water skier. I see you out there every day. You gotta rev that engine to get going, to get that skier up. That's right outside our windows. Then they stop, and there's instructions going on. There are lessons going on. Whether it's a business, I don't know. But the lack of awareness that it's even affecting people, that's the lack of respect. And that's what we feel. This is a beautiful pond, beautiful place to live. But there's a lack of respect. There's not norms. Mowing the lawn, you can mow your lawn at 7, but there's a norm in the neighborhood that people don't do that out of respect. That's what's missing here. Just an awareness that you're affecting people. There was nothing in his speech that even went there. That you're aware that how you're affecting people. Use the course, great. But just be aware that it's affecting us in the morning. Set some time limits. That is all we're asking.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Pica.
Okay. This commission in the past has dealt with noise issues previously when residents were complaining that crew boat coxswains were using amplified devices to coach their crews. So this isn't the first time. this has come in front of us. I believe, in response to those complaints by abutters, that from what I've observed, living on the water myself, and seen and heard from abutters, that that's a situation that has improved and has become, in essence, kind of a non-issue. So I empathize with the fact that, but on the other hand, this is a great pond at the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You can boat on the lake 24/7. If you lived on a busy street at a stoplight, you might hear cars slow down and engines rev up as they now are going to proceed because they have a green light. People will walk down the street and talk to each other. You can't legislate that. So if people are talking to each other in a boat, be it kayaks, now it's one thing if people are yelling, it's another thing if they're talking at, say, the hour of 6:50 or 7 a.m. So the aspect of respect, I can appreciate that very much. But the point is, when you have a great pond of the Commonwealth, people have a right to use it. Like cars on the street, yeah, engines will speed up and slow down. And that kind of goes with the territory. Like if you lived on Main Street at a stoplight, it goes with the territory. You're going to hear cars start up and rev down the road. You're going to hear people walking down the street talking. So part of me feels like you can't legislate life to that degree and not let people still live. So at this point, besides that, Mr. Chair, relative to if there's going to be some further discussion as to whether we're going to have a public hearing as to whether the course should continue to exist or not, I, at this time, as one commissioner, would say that I am opposed to another hearing to, say, abolish the course when I know that there's been a 30-year record of using it without gross incidents. It's another whole subject in terms of more use of the pond, and maybe it needs to be a little more enforcement relative to not so much the course, but just the level activity overall in this pond. But right now, I would not be in favor of having a public hearing to, say, consider abolishing the course, because I think that the people who have used the course have done fairly well at it. And again, it's a great pond of the Commonwealth. People have a right to use the lake. And yes, outboard motors are going to rev up and slow down, like cars will rev up and slow down on a public street. It's a public way. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pica. All right, so any other questions or comments from the board? I guess at this point, what's the board's pleasure?
Well, I guess it's really just a question of, do we actually want to discuss setting a time limit on the use of the water course before X time of the morning?
Okay.
Or after X time of the morning?
All right. Any comments or discussion on that?
My understanding is that the 7 a.m. town time limit applies to the whole town, which includes the part of the lake as well.
That would be my understanding of it.
So in some sense, a time limit already exists.
Okay. I just have a question to Sergeant Vito. So in the spirit of non-selective law enforcement, so would that be any boat can't make a noise before 7 o'clock? Or just this particular?
I would have to review the town bylaw to see the specific.
Okay, I'm just wondering, because I'm thinking to myself, during a fishing tournament, for example, these guys are out, that's, there'll be, 25 boats go by my house,
It's more of a noise ordinance.
Right.
bylaw, so it's not necessarily.
So it's really meant to be boisterous, loud party music,
Anything that's considered disruptive.
or
noise
someone,
ordinance.
pulling out a chainsaw and,
Correct.
cutting down a tree next to your house,
Correct.
just your bedroom window, that kind of thing.
Correct.
So it's not really about vehicles or in a normal course of things.
Correct.
Also, just to clarify, there is a limit to when you can water ski times of day. Like you I believe it's a half hour after sunset. Oh, no, a half hour before sunset and a half hour after sunrise.
Correct, I believe that's correct.
Is that correct?
In our rules, I think that's it.
Is it?
Yeah, I can look them up while you're talking.
I think that's a state law.
Well, through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
In late June, a half hour after sunrise is about 5:30.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And to what these people are saying, they don't want that noise
Right.
before 7.
I agree with that, although in my experience, I have not seen any of, and I know the early risers, the early skiers here, and I've not seen anyone out there at 5:30 in the morning yet. So, so that's, I'm thankful for that too, because again, I'm laying there with, I sleep in a room that borders the lake with my slider open, so I can hear everything everybody says, okay?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah?
Though, these are really two separate questions. Noise ordinances usually based on decibels.
Right.
Versus rules for when it's light enough to use a motorboat, a half hour after sunrise or.
Well, not the
a half hour
motorboat, but the
before
water skiing
sunset.
part. That's what I'm trying to establish,
Yes,
is the
I
water ski
understand.
part, Bill,
Right.
that,
But these are two separate issues.
right. Basically, we're talking about water skiing. They're going through the course, but they're talking about water skiing. And like, again, if the course wasn't there, that doesn't necessarily stop someone from water skiing on that site.
Right.
So, that's what I'm trying to figure out, is that, even if you take the course out, or you stop that, can we stop someone from skiing before like 7 o'clock in the morning? So that, because the state law is, and not that we can't affect our own rules, because we do that with the speed limit. The state speed limit is 45, it's 40 miles an hour on Lake Quinsigamond. So we can in fact do that. I don't know if the commission has an appetite for that, but that's how we would have to do it. We'd have to actually incorporate a rule in our rules to say you can't do it before this or before that, but that would affect all water skiers. Couldn't just do it on the course, you couldn't, without selective enforcement. Is that,
That's accurate.
that's
That
accurate?
would be my understanding of the
Yeah.
rule.
Yeah.
That was what I was saying.
It'd be
Mr. Chair.
unenforceable, that's not unenforceable, it'd be basically unenforceable, because we'd get the court and they'd throw it out.
Yeah.
So-
My point was that the noise ordinance is separate from what you
I got it.
described.
Right,
about-
so we're asking, and again, I know, I've been in that spot since 2002. So, and I can tell you that and kayakers don't make noise, when, the kayak woman that goes out, kayak girl, I forgot her name, I think it's Amy. She's out there every morning, and I mean, when there's ice out there, she's out there, she's something. But she doesn't talk to anyone because there's no one with her. But, you got 2 or 3 kayaks to the side, and they're carrying on a conversation, and I can hear them coming, from around the corner by the Route 20 bridge. Fishermen, they're slowly going by in their electric trollers, and they're talking. And there's really nothing you can do. And not even to mention the carp fishermen with their spotlights out there shining in your window, talking and laughing with music at night. So, there's a lot of noise going on in that type of environment.
Mr. Chair, if I may
And we
just-
have a bylaw in Lake, just one second, the Lake Quinsigamond rules with amplified voices. That's what the rowing rule was, right?
Well,
Was the amplified
Yes.
part of it.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
might, rule number 4, part of this rule is the use of a bullhorn, megaphone, or other amplification device after 8 p.m. or before 7 a.m., except in an emergency.
Oh,
shall
7 a.m.
const-
in the morning.
Shall constitute a disturbance of the peace.
All right, so technically speaking, a rower,
Bullhorn, it doesn't say anything about the noise of a motor here, Mr. Chair,
no, I know.
okay?
I know. By the way,
Through you,
Bill, I'm gonna
Mr.
disagree, that there has been, there's crew boats over there a lot. They get under there. They go over there and practice getting in and out of the crew boat. Yeah.
To get out, to
The
get
eights, the
over?
high school eights, they've been
The
over.
high school kids,
Oh,
okay.
yeah. They must squeeze the oars and
Yeah.
go into the thing.
Given what he just said, does that beg the question then, do we want to amend that rule number 4 to include the concept of motor noise?
Well, I think we could probably get pushback from.
No way can you do that.
here's, one of the issues we have is on the fishing side of things, right? That the, Fish and Wildlife has a lot of sway over the access to the lake. So you can't block access for it. So that could be construed as that part of it. So we could look into it, but, that would be something I wouldn't necessarily be in favor of, but, because it'd be hard to regulate it. That means no one could go out in a boat before 7 a.m.
Well, if you had he had mentioned a decibel level as a criteria.
Right,
That's usually how they're written.
right. And I don't think we anything, that's a state law governing that too on a motor, right? Just like a car.
That would be impossible to enforce. And
Right.
I don't think it would be feasible or advised to do that.
Right. So,
Rule number 4
yes,
starts off with, quote, "No person shall annoy another person." That's your regulation. That's rule number 4.
yeah,
That's how it starts off. I know you read the rest of it. We're annoyed. We're annoyed.
right. Don, the concern, the problem with that statement is that what if, someone could be annoyed by anything you do out there. They could be annoyed by you driving your kayak around. I mean, what we mean by annoyed is that you go out of your way to make a noise, or you're causing an annoyance just because you're doing it on purpose, like you're doing it to annoy the person.
And Mr. Chair, if I could, no person shall annoy another person or utter any profane, indecent, threatening, or abusive language or loud outcry, or play any game of chance, or have possession of any instrument of gambling, or do any obscene or indecent act, or use for the purpose of annoying another person, a flashlight, any other light, horn, or other device, in or upon the waters of Lake Quinsigamond. That was the first part of the rule I had read before, rule number 4, if anybody wants to look into it. And frankly, and this is not a public hearing, I'm co-chair, and excuse me, Mr. Chair. This is not a public hearing where we're gonna let the world speak, all right? If we have a public hearing, everybody can get up and have their turn. We wanted to hear what the complaint was and a representative contrary view. And we're having us discussion then amongst ourselves right now. But I think that rule's kind of clear, that is, people were trying to annoy other people, all right?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thanks. All right, so it doesn't seem like I just don't want to get circular here. So is this something we should table and for more study and figure out? I'm not sure, where if it's a rule change or, a rule change would also require a hearing.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I heard the police say that they know of a state rule and that we know about the Fish and Wildlife
Yeah.
rules. And it would be nice to just take all of that information plus our own rules, consolidate it into one overarching document that just clarifies it so that people can be handed that instrument and know what they can and cannot do.
Okay, well, we have mostly we have that in the Lake Quinsigamond rules. You don't want to give up your autonomy as a and the commission to, because some of our rules are different than the state, right? So like this, again, the speed limit law. The speed limit rule is 45 miles an hour maximum in the state. Anywhere else in Quinsigamond, it's 40 miles an hour. So, which is, what we think, because of the way the lake's shape and our size and all that stuff, is more prudent to what we're doing. So, so I don't want to go back and say, okay, we're going to take the state rules and adopt everything that they do, because some of it doesn't work for us. And
That's not what I said. I said what each of the rules governs,
yeah,
and then just sort of map it out so that, you can address the concerns that the people who are annoyed
Right.
have by saying, okay, this one governs this aspect of it, this one governs this aspect of it, this one governs this aspect of it, and look for the commonality.
okay. The other part of that, too, is we can ask the ski club to be self-policing on this issue. Certainly, with the no spotter thing. That should be an easy task. So I guess from our perspective now, so, because we got other business to do, so we can move on in this, so you,
Mr. Chair, can I make one last comment? Sure. It has been brought up several times in this discussion that this is really a behavioral issue.
Yeah.
And in that vein, I'd just like to refer back to what other people have referred to, the megaphone issue with
Yeah.
the crew boats. Basically, how that was solved, and this sentence was added at the end of Rule 4,
Yeah.
was all the rowers on the lake, the QRA, the QRC, the Worcester Boat Club, and the residents got together, talked, and it was a mutual agreement that they'd stop using their megaphones in the early morning on the lake.
before 7.
Yeah, and they, by talking to one another a reasonable way, interacting together, they did not have to have the Lake Commission basically decide upon something and tell them, we're gonna dictate to you what you're doing. So what I'd like to make a suggestion is we ask these two groups to spend some time talking together and seeing if they can come up with what's reasonable themselves.
I like it. Anybody down for that, and,
I'm not sure what group you're referring to, other than I know the residents, but I'm not sure.
The
what group.
residents
You
and the water skiers, if I can make two broad classifications, which are probably very rough.
Group of water skiers that we're not aware of,
that you're not aware of?
right?
It's just all the residents who ski on the lake.
What's the name of the club? Yeah, we'd be glad to have a discussion.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's representatives from the Quinsigamond Waterski Club here, okay? But, again, when I say club, that's kind of a loose term. It's so, and I will also say this, that in particular, the skiers that you're talking about at 6:50 in the morning are not part of the club. And so this, like anyone can ski on this lake. So that's one of the other issues of policing this and having one group responsible for everybody's behavior on the lake, because you can't always govern that, because it's just open. The slalom course is open. Like, there's no restriction that just the club people can use it.
That's why we asked, there's precedent,
Yeah.
that's why we're asking the
But,
commission.
I certainly, you could, Mr. Afonso is here, and he was representing the people that are handling the course. They're the ones who take care of the course, taking it in and out, replace any damage to it. And, I'm wondering if that makes sense to have at least, your folks and that group kind of get together and see if you can work it out. Is that
That's fine, but you're saying they can't set a limit. That's not their course. You guys set the limits on the course. That's why we came to you. But that's fine, we're open to discussion, that's what we wanted, a
Right.
discussion about time limits. That's it. We're not asking to abolish the course.
okay? All right, so, Rory, is that,
Sure, I think, excuse me.
I was afraid you
I think-
fell asleep.
I think there's an assumption here that the water ski club or the course users can speak for the water ski community on Lake Quinsigamond. As I mentioned before, there are many, many, many more free skiers on the lake every day.
All we're talking about right now is that particular location at Flint Pond. You're not responsible for what they do at Kings Point or anywhere else on the lake, unless you're out there skiing. So that's not part of the discussion we're talking about right now. This is strictly about the slalom course at Flint Pond.
But, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it presupposes that only people that we know come to ski the course. People come from other places that don't live on the lake.
Understood.
And-
So
and
we're
from
just
a-
trying to mitigate the
So
large body of it.
it's,
There is no
Well, my house at 6 o'clock.
Sure.
That doesn't mean it's not gonna happen anymore.
Of course, of
Right,
course.
right.
I mean, if we're
Okay,
trying to-
so, moving on. If that's something you guys can work out together.
Of course.
Rui, Don, Rui, okay? So, all right, that's it? Everyone's
Yes.
cool? All right, thanks, Bill. All right, we're gonna move on. Thank you all. Trust the agenda. Okay, update on lake management.
There goes your crowd. And,
Okay,
and?
hold on one second, Mike.
Oh.
All right. So, next item is item number 9, update on lake management plan. Update on weed mapping. Jacqueline,
Yeah,
do we have a weed map?
I was going to talk about that during my section.
Okay, all right. I'll wait till then. With bated breath. Update on the pilot study for natural heritage, and that basically means of Half Moon Cove. We did a pilot study for Half Moon Cove, and because there's a large crop of milfoil in there, and also I guess a fairly healthy crop of vasei, which is a narrow-leaf potamogeton that is a rare plant in Massachusetts. So, and I guess in some other parts of the country too. But anyway, it's rare here, so Natural Heritage would not let us chemically treat the body of water there with the rare in there. They came out with a new technology called Persilicor, which is a new chemical thing. We got permission to test that out, both from the Conservation Commissions. We added it onto our list and quiver of tools we can use, and we also got Natural Heritage to sign off on a pilot program where we could treat in that body of water. We just did a survey there to kind of follow up, because that was part of the pilot, was to go back and see, after we treated last year, if the potamogeton survived, and I guess that they're doing very well. I think the crop actually got bigger. Last summer, when they did the initial survey at Half Moon Bay, they did not find any vasei. They found other narrow-leaf potamogetons, which was good. But I believe that this last round that they did in fact find vasei in Half Moon. So it survived whatever chemical treatment we applied there. So that's a good thing. We're moving forward on this. The next phase of this is we had a control area. So we had the place we treated with Persilicor, and then we had a control area over by Old Faith Cove, and which also has vasei in it, and the vasei is still there, and along with a healthy crop of water chestnut, and so we were able to. I think we're going to go for now is to move forward, treat it Half Moon again in areas that we did not hit last year for the milfoil, and some areas that did not take for the milfoil, and then we're going to ask for permission to apply Persilicor in Old Faith as well. So to go there, because it's also a big crop of milfoil over there that's starting to get even worse. So that's good. So that's basically what that was about.
C,
What's that?
C.
Yep. Update on invasive species for on Newton Pond. Like Quinsigamond and Newton Pond. So basically, we got the bids out. We're going to go for treatment.
Yep, so we're just in the process of signing the contracts.
Paula,
with
could you ask those
contractors.
guys? Thanks.
So I should have a date pretty soon of when they're gonna do that.
Okay. The contracts have been awarded and all that.
Yes.
Yep, we're good.
Yep.
Thank you for that, Angela. I know that wasn't it wasn't a lot of fun. All right.
Can I just mention that residents on the lake of Newton Pond and Flint Pond, Lake Quinsigamond, should join the Town of Shrewsbury listserv for the Lake Quinsigamond Commission, because we will send out a notice through that listserv when it's gonna be happening as well.
Oh, when the treatments are actually going to
Yes.
happen? Okay, great. Did everyone hear that at home?
Sign up for the listserv.
For the listserv.
You go to the Town of Shrewsbury website, shrewsburyma.gov, and then you search for Lake Quinsigamond Commission, and there'll be a listserv, and you add your email address, and then you'll get emails from us. If there's any other notice throughout the year, that has to come from the Lake Commission, you would also get it then.
So like, if we did a no wake zone, or, you know, for the, say we got a high water mark or something, that, any kind of emergency thing, some of the spill alerts are there, on there too, right?
Yep, if we get a message
Yeah.
from either
Yeah.
Shrewsbury or Worcester, we'll send it out through
Okay,
there as well.
so it's a great thing to be on. And it's not that, you know, it's not like you're getting beeped in the middle of the night. Because Angela doesn't get in until like 10 o'clock in the morning, so it's, only kidding. So, update on the invasive, okay, so that's, so we have the contracts out for all that. We're gonna go back and hit them where we can, separate from the whole Half Moon thing, which is, and Old Faith, which is a little bit different. And update and act on a proposal for drawdown permits for Newton Pond. So we have a updated proposal. The price actually went down from last year, not by much, but it was like $45 less money.
Did you send that to me?
I have not, because I literally got it before I was
Just today,
walking in.
okay.
So, but it's basically $9,950 to cover what we need to do. They have to go down there, they have to, you know, study the stop logs, figure out how we're gonna open the dam up. Flint Pond is it's under the guise of the Lake Quinsigamond Commission, but it's owned by the Shrewsbury Conservation Commission.
Newton Pond.
Newton Pond.
I'm sorry,
Newton
what did I say?
Pond.
Coes?
Newton Pond, you said Flint.
Oh, I said Flint, no, Flint.
Newton Pond, fine.
Grafton owns Flint.
Right.
It's your fault, okay? So,
So can I just ask
so
a
Newton
question?
Pond, yes, I'm sorry.
So the drawdown, then they'll do the permits through Shrewsbury Conservation and Boylston Conservation.
Correct.
That's what this proposal will.
Well, this doesn't include the permits. This is getting us to the point where we can go, we have to have all this done so we can go for the
Go
permits.
to the permits,
Right.
okay.
So the permits are different, that's a different animal after this, yeah, we have to get this done first, so we have,
How to do it.
right, it's a little bit more onerous, than the chemical treatment permits, because, you know, the state steps in and says, hey, wait a minute, you know, how are you gonna draw it down? You know, what's the, you know, they wanna know the geography of the lake, they wanna know, you know, how effective this will be, all of that, so. It takes a little bit, but they need all this information, which we don't normally have to do in a chemical, for chemicals. We don't have to get all this other stuff, and it doesn't matter how you bring the dam down, the chemical treatment, because the dam's not down. So, but that's what this is about. I think, in, you know, Newton Pond, I think, the drawdown will be effective there, because it's fairly shallow. It's got a wide breadth, versus, you know, in Flint Pond on Lake Quinsigamond, that's actually pretty effective over there too. But for the rest of the lake, you know, one, we don't have huge milfoil problems in the middle of the lake, because it's 60 feet, over 60 feet deep, most of, you know, a lot. So we're not really, you know, experiencing those issues, except way on the north end, and, like I said, Half Moon and Old Faith. So, so that's out where we are with that, and then,
E,
and then E is update on Grafton CPC project. Oh, wait a minute, go back to D. Do we want to vote on that, to approve that amount? Okay,
Sure.
so I'll take a motion to approve the proposal from ESS for $9,950.
I would be willing to make that motion, Mr. Chair, with some assurance that the commission has the money to be able to afford that. Okay,
Did you bring the wallet?
okay, so I'll make a motion that we give approval for permits for Newton Pond
Second.
drawdown.
Okay, is there, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye? All right, so voted. Thank you. Update on the Grafton CPC project.
If I.
You gotta keep,
Chair?
you gotta keep at least one of those doors open.
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
the Grafton CCP is meeting tomorrow night at 7.
Yep.
And they want a progress report on that, so,
Okay.
yeah, I'd appreciate any information we could
So,
provide.
you probably as in tune to it right now as I am, because you've been copied on the emails from Craig.
Right,
right? So, my understanding is that they're over there and they've identified some potential issues with abutters and the potential for things to spill. What I didn't see, I was a little disappointed with that, is that they're not, our approach to this was to go back to the historical part of it and see, okay, what can we do to mitigate it? And with the understanding that there's something actually acutely going on right now, we should definitely address that, right? So,
Yeah.
got it. But I wanted to, I want to see more observations on where the stream was rerouted from, how that affected the pond and all that stuff. So, we have to circle back around to those guys. And I just saw I just kind of read through the email and I'm like, all right, it didn't say much, so I guess we have to go back and figure that out.
Mr. Chair, I agree with you. Excuse me. And to the extent of my copies of the emails,
Yeah.
my understanding is they have done just paper studies so far.
Right.
Concerning all of the historical sources of pollution in the Flint Pond.
Okay.
Going back to World War II. And they've come back to the original point, which was, it looks as essentially mostly Wyman Gordon's plant.
Yes, I guess that's everyone's saying, duh, but we still need to go through that exercise
Right.
to kind of.
I agree with you. The
Yeah.
whole rest of what needs to be done, but after 18 months of the CPC having Grafton CPC having monthly meetings, asking what progress we're making, I am very anxious to be able to report some progress.
Okay, I mean, we have made progress because we got the contract, and that was the big thing. That was no easy task, as it turned out, but, just the way things worked out. They switched companies, now all of a sudden the contracts have to be different, and there was whatever. So we got that part behind us, we're moving forward, and I will check with those guys on the physical part of that tomorrow. In other words, are you gonna do bore samples and all that stuff that we talked about, so, because I think that's important to do.
Right.
Now that we've figured out who did it, or where it came from, and again, it was never my goal, at least, to go back to Wyman Gordon and, drag them in for, that's not what we're doing. We're just trying to figure out how we can mitigate this moving forward and make it better. And if there's anything we can do to kind of improve the flow over there, bring it back to life. That's what I'm looking for.
It's exactly what the
Right.
grant was written for.
Right, so that's what the town of Grafton's interested in, and that's what we want to accomplish there. So, but the next thing is to find out, okay, where it's coming from, now we got to find out, all right, what was the result of what they did? What happened to it? What's the consequence?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%, but with respect to tomorrow night's meeting, I see three concrete things I could mention. One, we've got the contract signed, so now we've got a contractor working on it. Two, we had a meeting with a contractor to get started at the beginning of this month. And three, he started to do some paper studies of the sources of pollution in Flint Pond. So at least we can mention those
Okay.
three things, now actually concrete happenings.
Beautiful, all right. So you have to go in there empty-handed.
Right.
Okay, thanks. Sorry to put you in the spot. All right.
Item 10, Mr. Chair.
Update from Jacqueline Burmeister, Senior Environmental Analyst, Lake and Ponds, City of Worcester.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Jacqueline. Thank you for being patient.
Of course. So I just have some updates for all of you, and there'll be a few extras.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. So I have a few updates for you on Lake Quinsigamond from the perspective of the Lakes and Ponds program. First of all, as the chair alluded to, we have gotten an update from the Worcester Department of Public Works and Parks on their progress in working with contractors in updating the Lake Ave pump station, which, as we know, is responsible for a large sewage overflow back in February. And so if you are interested in learning about the recommendations that the engineers have made to DPW up to this point, you can find that report on the City of Worcester City Council webpage as an attachment to the City Council agenda as it was submitted to them last Tuesday. As part of that whole process and ongoing to this point, the Lakes and Ponds program has been doing ongoing testing of Lake Quinsigamond in and around the area of the pump station. And now that we've entered our regular monitoring season along the entire lake. In summary, and there is a report on the Lakes and Ponds website at worcesterma.gov/blue space, our initial report, which was specifically focused on that area, found that we did not see any significant short-term detrimental effects to the lake. However, we are continuing to monitor for potential medium and longer-term impacts, some of which may include things like cyanobacteria blooms due to the influx of sediment and nutrients that resulted from that event. And so we're continuing to keep an eye on it. That brings me to our most recent update on water quality from our most recent monitoring this past month. We last sampled actually today. This sheet covers the sampling time before that, which was the 13th of this month. So things have changed a little bit since then. Halfway through the month, it was about 77 degrees Fahrenheit at the surface of the water. We have increased in water temperature. We've also decreased a little bit in clarity, and as was noted by the commissioner earlier in the meeting, that we do generally see a decrease in water clarity around this time of year. It seems to be in the normal range right now. It was about 8 or 9 feet, depending on where you were in the lake as of today. Based on what our monitor reported to me this afternoon. And so we are seeing stratification begin to occur around 25 feet. This is basically where the density of the water due to the warming up of the water on top is preventing oxygen flow into the deeper lake, which could have implications on the fish. It seems to be on par with where we usually are this time of year, but we'll continue to keep an eye on that just to keep our fish population safe. We have some really great results in all 3 sections of Lake Quinsigamond, Newton Pond, Lake Quinsigamond, and Flint Pond from our Worcester Cyanobacteria Monitoring Collaborative. This is the group that is going out twice a month now, volunteers trained to take samples for cyanobacteria, which, as we know, are plaguing a lot of our lakes and ponds around the region. You can see all of the results and get a little bit more context by seeing going to the website on the sheet, worcesterma.gov/WCMC, but we're seeing that Newton Pond and Lake Quinsigamond are doing well. Flint Pond, we did see a little bit more cyanobacteria activity there this past sampling session. Still not necessarily too concerned, but we're going to keep an eye on it. In regards to invasive aquatic plants, which I know that everyone is really anxious to learn more about, I understand that the Watershed Association, who I don't believe are here tonight, they did perform some invasive aquatic plant remediation, some manual removal of water chestnut, which is becoming a bigger problem every year in Lake Quinsigamond. Water chestnut is a really aggressive invasive that can be easily identified by individuals and removed. So if you want to do something for the lake, something very tangible that you can do as a resident is remove water chestnut. So there is a video that can be found on the City of Worcester YouTube page called the Blue Space Minute. It's on how to identify and dispose of water chestnut. It's a really great resource that you can use to help attack this problem. Every plant that survives over the winter this year can produce up to 20 plants next year. So it's something we want to take care of. And I know that that's something that the Watershed Association is working on. As far as other invasive aquatic plants throughout the lake. We have set up a professional services contract with a contractor who will be performing a mapping of the lake in early August. The idea is that early August is when the plants are at their peak, so we would be able to very accurately see what's in our lake, update the map, which I believe was last updated in 2018. We know that things change really quickly, and so we really want to document where we are in this moment so that we can have the most effective management plan going forward. And so as those results come out, they will be shared with the commission and the town of Shrewsbury and the town of Grafton through the commission about how we can share this information with any contractors that will be treating the lake in the future. Does anyone have any, I believe that's everything.
Angela, on the cyanobacteria, so this isn't from the citizens. I know the citizens are doing cyano stuff too, but not the ones that I'm doing, right? The cyano test was not, because I
This
did,
cyanobacteria
I do
your
my test.
sample.
Okay, I do my test in front of my house, so that alarmed me when I saw that it was a high. The cyanobacteria was high in Flint Pond.
Oh, so that is representative of the sample that was brought in by the volunteer from the WCMC.
From the sample I brought in?
That's correct.
Oh, yeesh,
Oh,
okay.
it's not a bloom.
Oh, no, this is not a
It's
bloom.
cell, right?
It's
two different,
Right,
so if you're interested in learning more about what these colors mean,
yeah,
you can go and see the full results and the explanation here.
okay.
There are 4 categories: blue, green, orange, and
Yeah.
red.
Yeah, I saw the key. There was a key in another document that I saw that,
There was a closure, and Parks could probably speak to this better. At Flint Pond, it was posted saying that there was a cyanobacteria advisory. It turned out to be a mistake. It was actually just a fecal bacteria advisory.
I was gonna say, I thought that was fecal, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you're thinking about that, that is what happened, I believe, in that situation, right?
posted one.
Yeah.
Welcome back
Yeah.
to the Space Minute, where we talk about
I was just thinking of this, yeah, this high mark here. So that was actually from the test. I didn't know we were testing for cyano there. With that sample I brought in.
Yep, that is the
Okay,
Worcester
let's go.
Cyanobacteria Monitoring Collaborative. That is
All right.
what we sample for.
All right.
So
I also, I didn't pick up new bottles.
you can swing by the office. We do have a bucket of bottles for folks that
The
are
office on,
behind Via.
yeah, behind Viet, okay.
Correct. The
I
water
went
department.
to the wrong place when I brought it back and thinking, oh, Skyline Drive, and I drove to the airport thinking it was Airport Drive. And I'm like, I was literally almost to Webster Square and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not where I'm going. My GPS is like, where are you going? Turn around. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Got there though, I made it.
We will always do what we can to be more clear about the instructions.
Well, no, your instructions weren't clear. It was me. It had nothing to do with you guys. My head wasn't clear.
But yes, so if you are interested in learning more, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me at my email address, burmeisterj@worcesterma.gov. And on the website, you could find more details about what those colors mean and you know, how we created this system.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. John?
Anything else?
Any questions?
No.
No? Okay, great.
Good. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, so there actually is someone here from the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association. Mrs. Collins, would you come up and, you're gonna talk about the water chestnut, yes?
I will in my report.
Okay, thank you.
Paula Collins from 31 Flag Road for the watershed. We just wanted to do a quick report on the actual water chestnut harvesting from last weekend. We had about half a dozen people over by Old Faith Road. They came up with about 9 bags and a canoe full of water chestnuts, so a pretty good harvest. Wanted to thank everybody who did come out, because it was a small but mighty group that did a great job in very warm temperatures. For those of you who are feeling disappointed that you didn't get to go, you get to come back this Saturday at 9 o'clock. They're going to meet at the Stringer Dam in the water there. There have been reports, we know, all around the lake, so thank you, Jacqueline, for asking people to pull and to watch that Blue Space Minute. It is really great. If you haven't seen that video, we will try to post it again on the Watershed page so people know what to do. We've posted it in the past. We do need kayaks for Saturday, if anybody's got a kayak that would like to come out and help. Also, if anybody has any connection at Sunset Beach, it would be really great to have them involved because we could haul out from there, or, you know, we have that connection would be nice. Right now, we are gonna meet, in the water at the dam. So, that's all we have to report. In terms of the numbers that you were asking about for the police numbers, we would love to post those. If we can figure out, we can talk to you about how to get those numbers, because people are asking all the time. We're hearing from people, well, we saw them out, but we don't know what they're doing. So it would be really fantastic to be able to say, this is the effect that it's having. People are generally on our page getting on, very appreciative of the increased presence. So we also wanted to ask you to please thank all those levels of law enforcement that have been out, because we are definitely seeing that, and it's making a difference.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a note, also, I want to thank Kevin Esposito and Angela for doing the getting rid of them part. So we couldn't do this without the cooperation of the town. And Sergeant Vitos, if you're wondering what all those bags of garbage are at the boathouse, that's water chestnut. So please don't throw those back in the lake.
You're gone.
So I don't know if they're still there or not, but they're gone Monday. Okay, we got to figure out a better disposal plan there. I don't know. But for the folks at home, yeah, there's a giant crop, bigger than the one that was in Old Faith, actually, in Round Pond, just a little bit south of Sunset Beach, and it's pretty formidable. So they're easy to pull, and Jacqueline, we did the laundry basket trick, and the canoe actually worked out. I don't know if you saw that image. Did you see that picture?
I did not.
Oh, so there was literally a 14-foot canoe
Really?
filled with water chestnut.
That's great.
So they towed it behind the boat, and then they brought that to shore and bagged it. And for people's knowledge too, that this stuff dries out to almost nothing. So you could take it and put it in the beach and let the stuff dry out. It's gonna probably be 25% of the size it was when it was wet. So an easier way to kind of pack it away. And I will caution you, though, that the seeds, the nuts, the chestnut part of it, or the outside of it, very prickly. You do not want to step on it, and you'd be better wearing gloves when you're dealing with it. But typically, you can just kind of pull it up from the stem like a carrot and throw it in the bag. So, anything else? Patrick, do you have anything from the QRA? No? Sure? Positive. All right. Good. From the Joe, from the Masters thing, good luck this weekend. Thank you. You're putting the course in. Harry, you have any quick comment?
I'm Harry Sankarat from 35 Trowbridge Lane here in Shrewsbury. Joe and I, representing Quinsigamond Mowing Club and Worcester Boat Club, have been preparing the regatta, and as Mr. Nelson commented, probably the last regatta was more than 10 years ago. Response to the event has been phenomenal. We closed registration about a month before the event and have the 60 boats that we requested the permit for. At the time, certainly not thinking that we would get to that number, but overall the response has been great.
I remember you saying that, actually.
Excuse me?
I remember you saying, I don't think we're going to get that high.
Also, worth mentioning the collaboration we have had with U.S. Rowing helping us right from the start, making it first a safe event, but also enjoyable for the participants, and continuing the class experience that anyone who comes to row on Lake Quinsigamond receives and experiences. Much of it set, the example with the QRA, Patrick and Jason, and we've had several meetings over the phone with Jason, helping us prepare for it. So at this point, the weather report is great for Sunday morning, and we expect to have the last race conclude at 10:30 to coincide with the permit we pulled. So thank you for supporting the event, and it's only going to be 2.5 hours, but we look very much forward to hosting.
I think it's going to be good. I'm excited. So I don't know if this is trademark, but I love it when a plan comes together.
Yep.
So, good.
Good. Any other questions?
Well, we're,
No. All right.
we're good.
Thank you.
Have fun. Good luck. Are you rowing, Harry?
I am, yes.
Okay.
The last race.
Good. The last race. Is it, you're gonna have another boat rowing against you, or is just you going down the?
Are you dealing with the rowing against you?
Just let it win, right?
Yeah. I came in first in my division.
I do plan on winning, but we'll see. There are
Okay.
4 other boats in the race.
Hope there's not another boat show up. All right, Angela, you had something you wanted to bring forth from the town of Shrewsbury?
Just announcement from the town of Shrewsbury. The town has been working on a strategic plan, so if anyone would like to engage with what's going on with the creation of the town of Shrewsbury strategic plan, they're gonna have a booth set up at the food trucks tomorrow, July 28th, from 4:30 to 6:30, and then next week on August 2nd at the National Night Out from 5 to 7, and that's here at the town hall in Shrewsbury.
Right.
And you can also interact using the project's website, which is getinvolvedshrewsbury.com.
All right, speaking of plans come together, now you got a chance to get in on the Shrewsbury strategic plan, which is good. The food trucks, that's right out here?
Yep, in the front, and then
Yeah.
National Night Out at the police department's running an event, so that's also gonna be out front
Okay.
on Tuesday.
Will there be alcohol at
No.
the event? Just checking, okay? All right, that's awesome. So, the food truck thing is really kind of cool, too. All right, so I think, unless anyone's got anything else, we're,
When's the next meeting, Mr. Chair? So Wednesday, August 31st, here?
Here.
here in the selectmen's room, yes?
Yep.
Okay. Not the new selectmen's room anymore, it's the only selectmen's
The
room.
only.
Okay, so, good, all right, so I'll take a,
I make a motion to adjourn?
all right, is there a
Second.
second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.